Part 7, told from Miranda'S point of view. I forgot that I might see so many beautiful things. I forgot that I might need to find out what life could bring and gain beautiful things. Camp lies. My parents got divorced the summer before 9th grade. My father was with someone else right away. In fact, though my mother never said so, I think this was the reason they got divorced. After the divorce, I hardly saw my father, and my mother acted stranger than ever. It's not that she was like unstable or anything, just distant, remote. My mother is the kind of person who has a happy face for the rest of the world, but not a lot left over for me. She's never talked to me much, not about her feelings, her life. I don't know much about what she was like when she was my age. Don't know much about the things that she liked or didn't like. The few times she mentioned her own parents, who I've never met, it was mostly about how she wanted to get as far away from them as she could once she's grown up. She never told me why. I asked a few times, but she would pretend she hadn't heard me. So I think we're kind of getting that Miranda didn't exactly have the most ideal growing up, right? Okay, moving on. I didn't want to go to camp that summer. I had wanted to stay with her to help her through the divorce, but she insisted I go away. I figured she wanted the time alone, so I gave it to her. Camp was awful. I hated it. I thought it would be better being a junior counselor, but it wasn't. No one I knew from the previous year had come back, so I didn't know anyone, not a single person. I'm not even sure why, but I started playing this little make-believe game with the girls in the camp. They'd ask me stuff about myself, and I'd make things up. My parents are in Europe, I told them. I live in a huge townhouse on the nicest street in North River Heights. I have a dog named Daisy. Sound like anybody you know, guys? Then, one day, I blurted out that I had a little brother who was deformed. I have absolutely no idea why I said this. It just seemed like an interesting thing to say. And, of course, the reaction I got from the little girls in the bungalow was dramatic. Really? So sorry. That must be tough, etc., etc. I regretted saying this the moment it escaped from my lips, of course. I felt like such a fake. If Via ever found out, I thought she'd think I was such a weirdo. And I felt like a weirdo. But, I have to admit, there was a part of me that felt a little entitled to this lie. I've known Augie since I was 6 years old. I've watched him grow up. I've played with him. I've watched all 6 episodes of Star Wars for his sakes. So I could talk to him about the aliens and bounty hunters and all that. I'm the one that gave him the astronaut helmet he wouldn't take off for 2 years. I've kind of earned the right to think of him as my brother, right? And the strangest thing is that these lies I told, these fictions, did wonders for my popularity. The other junior counselors heard it from the campers, and they were all over it. Never in my life have I ever been considered one of the popular girls in anything. But that summer in camp, for whatever reason, I was the girl everybody wanted to hang out with. Even the girls in Bungalow 32 were totally into me. These were the girls at the top of the food chain, so to speak. They said they liked my hair, though they changed it. They said they liked the way I did my makeup, though they changed that too. They showed me how to turn my t-shirts into halter tops. We smoked. We snuck out late and took the path through the woods to the boys' camp, and we hung out with the boys. I don't know if these were the best friends. When I got home from camp, I called Ella right away to make plans with her. I don't know why I didn't call Via. I guess I just didn't feel like talking about stuff with her. She would have asked me about my parents, about camp. Ella never really asked me about things. She was an easier friend to have in that way. She wasn't serious like Via. She was fun. She thought it was cool when I dyed my hair pink. She wanted to hear all about those trips through the woods late at night. So, wow, we've learned quite a bit of Via in just the past 5 minutes, right? Not Via, about Miranda. We've learned that she doesn't really feel right about these things that she did, but she did them anyways, and she didn't stop it. And so we've learned that she started hanging out with these people who, in Bungalow 32, were supposedly, really popular girls, but they started changing her. Is that really the kind of friend you want? That wants to change who you are? Tell you to do things that you're not comfortable with doing? No. If you ever have friends like that, I don't know that I'd really call them friends. They're trying to make you something that you're not, and that would be fake. It's always better to be real. School. I hardly saw Via at school this year, and when I did, it was awkward. It felt like she was judging me. I knew she didn't like my new look, and I knew she didn't like my group of friends, and I didn't much like hers. We never actually argued, we just drifted away. Ella and I badmouthed her to each other. She's such a prude, she's so this, she's so that. We knew we were being mean, but it was easier to ice her out if we pretended she had done something to us. The truth is, she hadn't changed it at all, but we had. We'd become these people, and she was still the same person that she's always been. And that annoyed me so much, and I didn't really know why. Once in a while, I'd look to see where she was sitting in the lunchroom, or check the elective list to see what she signed up for. But except for a few nods in the hallway or an occasional hello, we never really spoke to each other. I noticed Justin about halfway through the school year. I hadn't noticed him at all before then, other than he was this skinny, cutish dude with thick glasses and long hair who carried a violin everywhere. Then one day I saw him in front of the school with his arm around Via. "So, Via has a boyfriend," I said to Ella, kind of mocking. I don't know why it surprised me that she'd have a boyfriend. Out of the three of us, she was totally the prettiest. Blue eyes, and long, wavy dark hair. But she just never acted like she was at all interested in boys, and she acted like she was too smart for that kind of stuff. I had a boyfriend too, a guy named Zach. When I told him I was choosing the theater elector, he shook his head and said, "Careful you don't turn into a drama geek." Not the most sympathetic dude in the world, but very cute. Very high up on the totem pole. A varsity jock. I wasn't planning on taking theater at first, but then I saw Via's name on the sign-up sheet and I just wrote my name down on the list. I don't even know why. We managed to avoid one another throughout most of the semester, like we didn't even know each other. And then one day I got to theater class a little early, and Davenport asked me to run additional copies of the play that he was planning on having for us for the spring production, The Elephant Man. I'd heard about it, but I didn't really know what it was about, so I started skimming through the pages while I was waiting for the Xerox machine. And it was about a man who lived more than 100 years ago, named John Merrick, who was terribly deformed. "We can't do this play, Mr. D," I told him when I got back to class, and I told him why. "My little brother has a birth defect and was deformed face, and this play would hit too close to home." He seemed a little annoyed and a little unsympathetic, but I kind of said that my parents would have a real issue with the school doing this play. So anyway, he ended up switching to our town. I think I went for the role of Emily Gibbs because I knew Via was going to go for it too. It never occurred to me that I'd beat her for the role. What I miss most. One of the things I miss most about Via's friendship is her family. I loved her mom and dad. They were always so welcoming and nice to me. I knew they loved their kids more than anything. I felt safe around them, safer than anywhere else in the world. How pathetic that I felt safer in someone else's house than my own, right? And of course, I loved Augie. I was never afraid of him, even when I was little. I had friends that couldn't believe I'd ever go to Via's house. "His face creeps me out," they'd say. "You're stupid," I'd tell them. "Augie's face isn't so bad once you get used to it." I called Via's house once just to say hello to Augie. Maybe part of me was hoping Via would answer. I don't know. "Hey, Major Tom," I said, using my nickname for him. "Miranda!" He sounded so happy to hear my voice, it actually took me kind of by surprise. "I'm going to a regular school now," he told me excitedly. "Really? Wow!" I said, totally shocked. I guess I never thought he'd go to a regular school. His parents have always been so protective over him. I guess I thought he'd always be this little kid in an astronaut helmet I gave him. Talking to him, I could tell he had no idea that Via and I weren't close anymore. "It's different in high school," I explained to him. "You end up hanging out with loads of different people." "Oh, I have some friends in my new school," he told me. "A kid named Jack and a girl named Summer." "Well, that's awesome, Augie," I said. "Well, I was just calling to tell you I miss you, and I hope you're having a good year. Feel free to call me whenever you want, okay, Augie? You know I love you always." "I love you too, Miranda. Say hi to Via for me. Tell her I miss her." "I will. Bye." "Bye."